Welcome back, everybody. Today, we are going to install the WIIM Pro. Now, what is a WIIM Pro, you might ask? Well, this is a hi-fi streamer that allows you to stream music from pretty much any online service that you could ever possibly imagine. And this thing is awesome. Now, it's not new. It's been around for a while, but there's a new feature this thing has that it blows the world up, right? It takes this thing from good to great, or any of those cliches that you might think of, but it's really super cool. You need to hang around to the end for that one. But today, we're going to install this, and I'll tell you what I think about it. To get started, though, we need to get this thing out of the box. So let's get it out of the box. While we get this out of the box, let's talk a little bit about what this thing actually is. So this is a music streamer. And what this allows you to do is, wherever your music lives, maybe you're using Qobuz as a streaming service, or maybe you have a server at home doing DLNA, well, this allows you to take those sources and then pipe it into your hi-fi system, right? It's pretty cool because this thing has support for just about everything built in, and we'll show that to you here in a little bit. But the idea is that you can have your system, and you'll have, you know, your amplifiers and your preamp and your speakers, and you need to get music in there. Well, this does it. You can funnel everything into your system through this device using an app installed on your phone, and it's all super duper easy. Okay, now looking at the device in the box itself. So inside of the box, you've got the WIIM Pro, nice and coated in plastic there, and that stuff comes off. In addition to that, you've got an optical cable. You've got your power, and that's like a USB cable with a USB brick, and also an RCA cable. Now, the RCA cables are pretty thin, and in audiophile world, people will probably scoff at them, but I use the cable, and it's totally fine. But, you know, you can use whatever you want to with this, no problem. Now that we're out of the box, let's take a closer look. Okay, one thing to tell you, though, before we start talking about what's on this unit, is that this can be used as a streamer only or as a preamp, meaning that this goes directly into your amplifiers, which go to your speakers, and there's no preamp and other sources. So some of the ports on the back won't matter if you're not using it in preamp mode, but they do become very important if you are using it in preamp mode. Okay, across the front, you've got 4 touch-sensitive buttons, and what that means is that there's no clicky to them. You can just touch them, and you know, likely the most important ones would be volume up and down if you're using this in preamp mode, and then you've got, of course, a play and then a source select here. You know, the box is plastic, and it's not super high quality plastic, but it's good enough, I think. On the back, though, this is where a lot of your magic is, right? So you can see that you've got your Ethernet in here. It also does Wi-Fi. You've got a trigger, right? This trigger is very interesting because this is useful in systems where this is the preamp, and you can use it to turn on your amplifier, which is pretty rockin' awesome. You've got your RCA in and out. So you'll always use the out if you're using the DAC internally. You'll use the in if you're going to have another source that you want to use this to preamp for. In the same way, you've got optical in and out. You've got USB for power. And then there's a little tiny microphone hole there in the back as well. Right about here, you've got your coax out. Now, the important ones for me here really are the optical out and your RCA out. Those are the ones that I use all the time, quite a bit, and we will talk about those more as we start to install. And then Wi-Fi and LAN obviously are super important. And if you can plug this thing in, do so. If not, Wi-Fi works totally fine. Now let's talk a little bit about the features, or maybe a lot about the features. And I'm going to use the box as a guide because it lists it all out here for us. First, let's talk about the music services that this supports natively, and it's just about everything. These are configured in the app, and then just reading off the box here, we've got Spotify, Deezer, Tidal, Qobuz, Amazon Music, TuneIn, Napster, iHeartRadio, VTuner, Pandora, SoundCloud, and ... Yeah, that means whatever. Now, in addition to the services that you can stream music from, DLNA server can stream to this guy. You can Bluetooth from your phone. Also, if you flip this around, you've got Chromecast and AirPlay 2, right? So it does all that stuff. Now there's also one more secret thing I'm going to tell you about it at the end, so make sure you stick around. But it's what really made this a device that I wanted to use in my home, and it has to do with sources, but we'll talk about it in a minute. This is high-res audio out via optical or coax, so 24196, which is really cool. And that's what makes this at home in an audiophile system as well as a kind of consumer grade, pedestrian kind of everyday system. You take this thing and use it with the DAC of your choice, and it is as good as any other streamer out there. I know there'll be some folks who say, well, I've got a $12,000 streamer and there's no way it's as good. I think that for probably 99.99999% of the people out there, you use this streamer and the same DAC that you're using with your other streamer, nobody can tell the difference, right? It's the same, right? So this thing's really good. I mean, there's a reason why it's so popular, and the reason is because it's pretty freaking awesome. So outside of those features, the other piece, as I mentioned before, is that you can use it as a preamp. You can plug in whatever you want to, whether it's a CD player or even a record player, and then use this to do all the good stuff. So that's a very high level on all the features. Now let's get into the installation. Now it's installation time, and we're going to install this in my office test system. Now the first thing you want to do is go and download the app, and that's pretty straightforward. Go to the App Store, look for WIIM Pro, there's one app, install it, you're good to go. Now physically, two ways to install this. We can install this with the RCA out into your preamp, or you can use an external DAC. And I'm going to use this Jiles. I love these DACs, they're awesome. I'm going to use this as my external. Not because I don't like the DAC that's in here, but because I want to use XLRs, right? This doesn't have XLR, and I'm hoity-toity like that, and this does have XLR out. Now, there are three things that we need to connect. Power, that's going to be via the USB port. Ethernet, and we're going to be Wi-Fiing it up, so nothing physically to connect. And then we're going to use the optical out to the optical in on the DAC here. And that's it, pretty straightforward. So you want to make sure that you plug into the correct optical port, the SPDIF out, and then power. There's only one spot, so that's super easy. And that's it. This has optical in, and then XLR out, which goes up to the preamp. That's all there is to it. Super easy to install. Now it's time to talk about the super secret feature. So as I was recording this video, getting this thing ready to publish, something happened. I opened up the app and there was a, hey, update your app. I'm like, what could this be? Well, they finally decided to add in ROON functionality. So this is now a ROON endpoint. And this was the one thing that I was going to knock this platform on, because I'm a big ROON user and I know a lot of other people are too. And it's a good way for all of your devices to kind of have that one central location where all of your music is contained, right? Whether it's a streaming service or local files or whatever, it makes things really easy. So you don't have to go out and touch every device and log in everywhere. Well, it's awesome. And the WIIM Pro did not support it. Well, it does now. And let's take a quick look so you can kind of see what this looks like if you have a ROON server and you update your software and get support. Okay, I've got ROON open on my desktop, and we're going to go over and look at settings and then look under audio. Now this shows all of the devices that ROON can find, and this one right here in the middle, Link Play Technology Incorporated WIIM Pro receiver. That's the new one, right? I'm going to enable that bad boy. I'm going to name it WIIM Pro, and life is going to be good. And that's it. Now my WIIM is connected into my ROON ecosystem, and I couldn't be any happier. This is awesome. Now let's talk comparisons and the final word. You know, a lot of people in these kind of videos want to hear, how does this thing stack up against this other thing? From that point of view, really, from a sound point of view, I would think that most people that are going to use this, that are worried about sound, are going to be using an external DAC. And you really want to just compare the DACs, right? All the sound differences, for the most part, come in the output stage of a device, right? And that would be, in this device, using the RCA cables out, right? That's once things are turned from digital world, because remember, when it's digital, it's all the same, to analog. Analog is where things can become different, right? Because it's not just data, it's actually an analog signal. So if you want to do comparisons, compare the DACs that you're going to plug this thing into. Where you can do comparisons really comes down to features, right? And where I look at features is, how do I control this box and what can the box do for me? So this box does everything, and it now does ROON, which is what I use to control everything anyway. So from my perspective, it doesn't get any better, right? This is the way that I live in a streaming world, so that's the way I want to live. This box does it. Now, if it didn't support ROON, then we would have a deeper conversation and I would have things to say about that. But luckily, as I was doing my video, hey, they decided to release it. It feels like they did it just for me, and I'm sure they did, right? So thank you, WIIM, for adding ROON to this device just for me. Getting to the final thought, I really can't give this a higher recommendation. This thing's $150. It doesn't cost much at all. Go to any hi-fi show and look at streamers, and you're going to be $2, $3, $4, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 just for the streamer, and then, you know, $5, $6, $7, $8,000 for another DAC, right? You can literally take this box and for $150, pair it up with a $150 DAC, $300, and have high-end audiophile quality sound piped into your system. You can leverage ROON, likely the most sophisticated controller out there for streaming, and this makes a package that's just unbeatable. So I really don't have anything beyond that. Just 5 stars, 2 thumbs up, anything like that that you want to think. This is really a wonderful, wonderful product, and I'm glad that I've had an opportunity to test it and use it here in my home, and I plan to continue to use it indefinitely until I find something better. And right now, I don't see anything better. All right, with that, we're going to go ahead and say thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe. Do all the things that we YouTubers like you to do. And with that, I'll see you guys in the next video.